What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Gsluke here with our DFS value plays for the Sentry Tournament of Champions. It's here on a Wednesday. We have ownership finalized. Finally, an idea of who's going to be popular or not. And in this video, I'm going to quickly bring you 4 of the picks priced $8,000 and below on Draftkings, so 6 and 7K range golfers I think are worth considering for large field contests, whether they have top 5 upside, potentially even winning upside in this field, or they bring something else to the table. In either circumstance, they're going to be large pieces of my player pool. So no time to delay at all. Let's go ahead and get this thing rocking. All right, the first pick we're going to touch on is Adam Scott. So towards the top end of this range at $7,600, and he's coming into this 2023 season with a lot of momentum. Towards the beginning of 2022, he was inconsistent at best, was going out there missing plenty of cuts, but as the season went on, the ball striking got a little bit more consistent, and the putter has been a bright spot for at least the last year, probably even year and a half for an Adam Scott. In the past, he had been extremely inconsistent with the flat stick, and though he's still prone to a few of those short misses, you know, the miss over there at Wyndham a few years ago really stands out. It's been a strength of his game, at least when it comes to the shots gains perspective. So when you look at his numbers on Bermuda, you can see he's not an elite player on Bermuda, but still gaining 0.14 shots gained per round. So in the positive in that category. The ball striking stats, like I mentioned, have gone a lot more consistent of late. You can see he's gaining significantly off the tee, right around a neutral on approach, which leaves a little bit to be desired, but you're still talking about a 7K golfer. He's priced towards the bottom of the board for a reason, but most consistently, this short game has really become the strength of Adam Scott's game. And the real reason I think he brings a little bit of extra upside here is when you look at some of the Aussies, like a Cam Smith who won last year, or a Matt Jones who had success at Kapalua. A lot of these Australian-born players are used to courses with plenty of undulation. Those sandbelt courses over there in Melbourne, where a lot of these players grow up that are from Australia, have undulation, kind of like what you saw at the CJ Cup with Congaree, where there's elevation changes, the greens are firm and fast, though the greens at Kapalua don't have that same firm and fast effect where you have that sand base. A lot of the contouring, a lot of the creativity necessary to go out there and succeed, there's a lot of crossover to be had. And of course, Adam Scott, you know, Masters champion, there's also that crossover from Augusta National as well, by #1 comp course this week. So as of right now, he's going relatively low owned, just 11.6% in terms of his projected ownership, which is well below the average. So I'll remind you, there's only 39 players in the field, which when you take 600%, you divide it by those 39 players, just over 15% is going to be your global average. So if somebody's 11% owned, believe it or not, they're going to be a relatively low-owned play this week, and particularly when they're priced around guys that are nearly 20, sometimes 25% owned. It's not like those guys are bad plays, a few of them that I have in my player pool, but to get leverage to an Adam Scott is a lot easier to accomplish than getting to one of those higher owned plays. So love him this week. I love the upside, familiarity on these contoured golf courses, and certainly somebody that I'm playing. Next up, we've got Sahith Theegala, so $7,300, a little bit cheaper for Sahith, a little bit higher ownership though. He's a DFS sweetheart. People love playing Sahith, and it's warranted. His fantasy scoring is volatile, but when you catch him on one of those weeks where he has his game, he's going to be a top 5 scorer. He makes a ton of birdies, is extremely aggressive, not afraid at all to go out there and put together birdie streaks, rounds of 7, 8 under par, and at an event where 30, potentially something like 34 under par, like what ended up winning this event last year, will get it done. You're looking for somebody with that firepower, kind of that Sam Burns effect, where he can get nuclear hot and really run ahead of the pack at this sort of a scoring fest. So Sahith Theegala, I like the firepower. I like the numbers on Bermuda. Another gainer on the Bermuda surface. And the ball striking, though it's been a little bit inconsistent, during the fall he had a few solid events, but also a few where he missed the cut like horribly, like 7, 8 over par over the first 2 days. That happened at the CJ Cup. A few other really ugly missed cuts, but still right around a neutral in terms of his approach play. So though he's been inconsistent, he's had a little bit more positive weeks than negative weeks. The off the tee play is a little bit concerning, but if there's one golf course where we can look past some of the off the tee accuracy issues, it's going to be at Kapalua. You have some fairways here that are 60, 70 yards wide. Hole number 18 is nearly 100-yard wide fairway, and on average, right around a 50-yard wide landing area. So Sahith Theegala, all of these negative strokes here are due to that accuracy, penalty strokes, so on and so forth. I don't imagine he's going to run into nearly as much trouble in this iteration, this tournament, as he has over that recent stretch. So I like the course fit. The ownership's okay, right? It's 17, nearly 18% there, so a little bit higher than your average, but you're not talking about a chalk play, somebody that's 25, 30% owned in this sort of field, which still has me comfortable getting some leverage there. Next up, we've got KH Lee. Now, he's another low-owned play, right? 13.1%, only $7,000 in this field. And it's all about the easy conditions. If you remember the Byron Nelson over there, easiest golf course maybe besides this golf course here at Kapalua on the entire PGA Tour schedule. Winning score right around like 27, 28 under par year in and year out at the Byron Nelson. KH Lee loves himself easy conditions. He can go out there, consistently get to that 6, 7 under par. He's gaining across the board when it comes to the shots gained. You can see here he's gaining in every category but around the green, where around the green is by far the least important stat this week. In fact, it's only 5% of a weight in my modeling, so essentially non-existent there. But gaining off the tee, gaining on approach, gaining with the putter. At the President's Cup, he was decent as well, right? He wasn't a liability for that President's Cup team like quite a few other players on that team were. He wasn't a star either. So with KH Lee, I think he's got the upside to potentially compete at this event. I mean, we've seen it at a few other Birdie Fest sort of events, but I also think he's got a relatively high floor. Given how consistent he is, that he gains across the board with the shots gained, I think if you're looking for a safe play down low, I'm okay getting to somebody like a KH Lee. But also, if you're looking for that flyer pick, he's also relatively low owned. I don't think that he's the worst idea. The one thing to note here, the one negative that's really the only real negative you have with the KH Lee is going to be the putting on Bermuda. It's his worst surface. You can see he's losing 0.2 strokes per round, but that's not enough to keep me off him completely. Again, he's relatively low owned, has that upside at a few of the comp courses I'm looking at, and will be in my player pool for sure. The last pick we're getting to here is Tom Hoge. He's the highest owned out of the bunch. I would not be surprised if he even comes in a little bit higher owned than where I have him at right now. And it all comes down to the approach play. He's been an absolute demon with his irons over the last few months. He's gaining over a stroke per round on approach off the tee, right around neutral. It's actually pretty good for a Tom Hoge. And the putter has gone to a positive, gaining close to a quarter of a stroke per round. And while I think that's a little bit unsustainable, right? He's definitely a very inconsistent putter. He's been decent on Bermuda grass. It's his best surfaced by far. He's right around a neutral putter on the surface. And at $6,500, he brings the highest floor of anybody here down low. Now, I mentioned KH Lee is a relatively high floor player. Tom Hoge's got like a top 15, top 20 sort of floor here. He's going to finish in the top half. He's that cut maker with that ball striking that is just going to be consistent week to week. It's when he spikes with the putter is when he's getting into contention. So at this sort of event where approach play is by far the most important stat I'm looking at, somebody gaining over a stroke per round with their irons, we're going to have to play. I mean, look at this. Molinax gaining close to 0.6 strokes per round. He's your next highest player down here, right? Trez Reavie, 0.4 strokes per round. Nobody's even close to a stroke per round. Actually, I think in the entire field, the only player playing better on approach is Tom Kim. The only guy even close to him in terms of a shots gained approach is going to be Will Zalatoris or Colin Morikawa. And you're talking about 8K range golfers at that point. So you're taking the discount, you're taking the approach stats of late. He's had some time off, so I think there's a legitimate question as to whether we can really expect him to hold up that sort of form. But there's no doubting that he's probably the most mispriced golfer on the entire slate. He could easily be up here, priced right around like an Aaron Wise, Sahith Theegala. I don't think anybody would have batted an eye at that. So there's a lot of utility in getting to a good Tom Hoge at $6,500. All right, fellas, that is all I've got for the value picks. I'll remind you, a live stream will be tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern time. On there, you can ask me any questions that you have, whether it's for DFS, betting, or of course for prize picks. We'll be touching on a weather report, a chalk report for the GPP, so who's going to be the highest owned players on the slate, potentially, whether you might want to fade them or not. Maybe you want to play them in 50-60% of your lineups. We'll talk about all that sort of stuff. And just GPP strategy, probably the most important part of that show, going through lineup construction, ways to differentiate yourself. We'll talk about a few of the different contests that you can consider, what you should be doing in larger field GPPs as opposed to potentially single entries, 2 or 3 maxes. Pretty much everything you need to know for this week, crammed into an hour live stream, and of course catered to all of your questions as well. So in the description there will be a link to that live stream. But as always, guys, I appreciate all your support here on the channel, you guys stopping by, enjoying the content. Before you hop on out of here, go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already so you don't miss any of the content in the future. But best of luck with those lineups, best of luck in those GPPs. One of us, I'm feeling it. It's a good juju week. One of us is going to bring home something big this week. Hopefully it's one of the viewers of this video, and we can take home some good old money this weekend. But either way, guys, again, I appreciate the support, and I'll catch you guys later for the stream.